Should the Bears draft Bryce Young and trade Justin Fields?
No, they shouldn't. Justin Fields should be their starting quarterback. You talk about a guy who had 1,100 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns last year. He brings another dimension to the game. We just witnessed Jalen Hurts and what he was able to do after becoming a better passer. I'll take it a step further. I want to see Justin Fields with an offensive line. I want to see him with skill position players around him. And I got a question for the Chicago Bears. The Philadelphia Eagles were able to get Jalen Hurts to a point to where he played outstanding this year, along with Jalen Hurts on his own, working on his game. Do the Chicago Bears trust their coaching staff to allow Justin Fields to become a better passer? Those are the questions that I have for the Chicago Bears. But you talk about a guy who now brings another dimension to the game and forces a defense to defend you a different way because of the way he utilizes his legs and is able to run. I can't get rid of no guy like that.
And go ahead, Bart.
So see, the difference is, and listen, I said this 2 months ago on my radio show that I believe that should be the play. And it's not because Justin Fields isn't a worldly talent. The problem is you talk about you want to see them with a good offensive line. You want to see him with a great skill position players. That takes time. Jalen Hurts went into a situation where that was already in place. Kelsey was already there. Mulata was already there. So now how do you get that for a young quarterback? You get it by getting draft capital. So imagine what, Justin Fields, because he's under contract for 2 to 3 more years, would get you as far as draft compensation to be able to do that. The thing is, Chicago has all the money in the world. They don't have the players. And I don't know how many people are going to rush to go join a team that's just starting. This gives the new regime an opportunity to get a fresh start, restart the clock for 5 years, and you saw that that's how you win in this league, by getting the most talent you can get with a cheap quarterback on a rookie deal, much like Jalen Hurts is, much like when you think about Russell Wilson and what that was. It gives you an opportunity to go and get can't-miss veterans.
So you're saying you would or you wouldn't do it?
I would. Okay. Simply because the timing for when those young, you go get that talent that you need to put around Justin Fields, by the time he get there, who knows what kind of condition he's going to be in, because they use him so much running. He's got beat up this year, right? But he needs to go to a team that's already ready, that has the pieces around. That's why I said he should be an option for the Jets. If I'm the Jets, I'm calling Chicago, say, I'll give you 13. Can you imagine having 1 and 13 and being able to get it, reset the clock on a young, talented quarterback and build around him for 3 to 4 years and try and change the narrative of what Chicago Bears are.
And I assume this makes sense if you believe that he is a young Patrick Mahomes, or at least Patrick Mahomes-ian. But I want to put up this graphic of those skill position players that Harry was talking about just real quick. And then, Harry, weigh in on what Bart just said.
Yeah, check this out. So here's the thing for me. You look at the skill position players, the wide receivers for the Chicago Bears last year had a total of 10 touchdowns. There are 5 players in the National Football League as an individual that had more touchdowns than the Chicago Bears did totally as a team, wide receiver-wise. And Bart, I would say this. You have the #1 pick this year. You could trade back if someone wants to jump up and get draft capital. They have the most money to spend in free agency, almost $100 million to work with. So I think you can bring guys in within the next 2 years to allow Justin Fields to be able to become a better quarterback and a better player for your organization.
Yeah, but how many veteran players that already got their money are going to be saying, okay, Chicago's my first choice? Because you know that the Lions are ahead in the process. Minnesota's ahead in the process. So I got to go there and wait a couple years to win when it's teams that's ready to win. It's other teams that have, salary cap space that can offer those receivers or those skill position players the same thing that the Bears can. So that means that the Bears are going to have to overspend. So it's going to eat up all that extra draft capital that you have. You should build this team young so that they can ascend all at the same time. Chicago's in a rebuild, in a reset. And so now you look at, you look at Fields and look at the toll that it did on his body, right, with all the running that he did. He's not built like Jalen Hurts. He's not as stout as Jalen Hurts to withstand the physical punishment of taking those hits. So I wouldn't, if I was him, I would say, listen, I love being here, but if you can move me to a place that's a contender that can protect me, then I can blossom and become a thrower, because all we know is he's great in running the football. They want to see him be great in elite throwing the football, which we know he was better when in college than Jalen Hurts.
Odell Beckham Jr. will sign with the Bills. Overreaction or not an overreaction?
Oh, not an overreaction. This is one to watch. They've had interest in him in the past. There's a report out there that they could be hiring his college wide receivers coach to their coaching staff. They took a big swing last offseason on Von Miller, not afraid to go big game hunting in free agency. I would definitely watch Buffalo for Odell Beckham when and if he's finally healthy.
Really interesting there. All right, so Brock Purdy will be the 49ers quarterback next season. Overreaction or not?
At this point, an overreaction. He's certainly in the mix, but I would expect at this point with him and Trey Lance both coming off of injury that they'll go to training camp and kind of make it a battle for the starting quarterback job, may even bring in another veteran to kind of compete and possibly hedge against one or both of those guys not being ready to start the season. Still a lot of questions to sort out in San Francisco.
Wow, 7-1 as a starter last year and still might not have that job. Lamar Jackson will win MVP next season. Overreaction or not an overreaction?
Not an overreaction, never an overreaction with Lamar. When he's healthy, he has been that kind of player. So if he can stay healthy and if he and the Baltimore Ravens can get things worked out on the contract, he definitely is in that mix. Never can rule out Lamar Jackson when it comes to the question of MVP.
Okay, and so you never rule him out. And, of course, the franchise tag window opens next week with Lamar Jackson. So this whole thing again, Ravens, Lamar Jackson, is going to start to play out very, very soon. So, Graz, lay out for us all the particulars of Lamar Jackson's situation and his timeline.
So they'll communicate again on the potential of a contract extension as they did the last couple of off seasons. If they can't get it done, they have until March 7th to franchise him, at which point they will probably put the deal on hold until the summer, because at that point you go do your other free agency stuff, you handle your draft stuff, and you have until July 15th to work out a long-term deal with your franchise player. If you don't get it done by then, you can't do it again until after the season. And then the question for Lamar becomes, do you play on the franchise tag? Do you sit out the offseason program? Do you sit out training camp? Do you threaten to sit out regular season games? A lot of questions still to be answered in terms of how he would react to being franchised. His preference and their preference is to get a deal done, but last season, the issue was guaranteed money. He wanted fully guaranteed. They didn't want to give that. Someone's going to have to give a little bit on their position in order to get this done.
Okay, so that continues to be the issue. And then OTAs, of course, start around late May. So it becomes an issue of when does if he doesn't come in there, how does that affect the franchise? So, Bart, I start with you.
Yeah.
Should Lamar set foot on the field if he doesn't have everything he wants in a deal?
Not at all. And especially with what's about to happen in this offseason, because I think Joe Burrow is going to rewrite the structure of how quarterback deals are. If anybody has an opportunity to get a fully guaranteed contract, it's going to be a quarterback like Joe Burrow. Well, at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson can say, well, listen, I may not have taken you to the Super Bowl, but I am a franchise guy, and I was the best player in this league, and I'm still young, and I still have an added dimension. And if you don't sign me long term, it's only going to cost you more money in the future, right? The price tag, I thought Lamar Jackson made more money than anybody because of what the deals were last year. So now we potentially have 4 or 5 new quarterbacks that's going to get new money, and those guarantees are only going to go up more and more and more. Because listen, I promise you that eventually Patrick Mahomes is going to get redone as well. They're going to do it quietly, but it's going to be reset again. So if they wait, the price tag is only going to continue to go up.
Yeah, and you look at the numbers right there on screen with Deshaun Watson, top of the list, $230 in guaranteed money.
And he can say he's better than 3 of those guys on that list.
Okay, so don't sign the franchise tag.
Hell no.
Okay, Harry, what do you think?
Hell to the no. He better not step out there on that football field. We just witnessed him bet on himself last season, and I was upset that he did that. I thought he should have been more selfish because when it's all about your future and securing the bag for your family financially, I don't view it as being selfish. I view it as you doing the right thing for your well-being. Now, we seen Lamar Jackson 2 years ago when he got hurt. They had the #1 seed in the AFC. We seen him last year when he got hurt. When he got hurt, they were the leading team in the AFC North. Everything about Baltimore says Lamar Jackson. So for him, I'm not stepping out on the football field until I have a new deal that's to my liking.
North of $45 million as a starting point. Yeah. I mean, you hear that and your eyes pop out of your head. But Harry, is Jalen Hurts worth paying $45 million as a starting point? So we're talking about way more than that this offseason.
I 100% agree. You talk about a guy who wasn't a first-round draft pick, so he didn't get the money that a lot of these other guys got up front because he was a second-round draft pick. Jalen Hurts, you talk about a guy who finished second in the MVP voting. Not only that, 3,700 yards passing, 66.5 completion percentage, 22 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, on top of rushing for 750 yards and 13 touchdowns. You talk about leadership. You talk about the cool, calm, and collectiveness that he displays on a football field when things doesn't go right. And I can't help but to think about that fumble that he had in the Super Bowl, but came back the following drive because he stays cool, calm, and collected. He don't let the highs get too high, doesn't let the lows get too low, and led his team right back down the field for a touchdown. He's everything that Philadelphia embodies, so pay the man what he wants.
Dan, does paying him this kind of money mean the Eagles miss their best chance or their best shot to win the Super Bowl?
Look, that's always the argument, right? Can you win once you pay the quarterback? And look, Adams' number 45, I mean, that is a conservative figure, as he indicates. I mean, you look at what guys are making. Deshaun Watson, 46, he had a better year than him. Kyler Murray, 46.1, he had a better year than him. Russell Wilson, 49, he had a better year than him. Look, this is a guy that can ask for 50 plus and probably will get it because that's the cost right now, especially when you look at Burrow, you look at Herbert, you look at, as I think Harry mentioned, or Bart mentioned, Mahomes probably gets a new deal at some point soon. So, yeah, I think the trick is if you're the Eagles, you have to get him to agree to a Mahomes-like structure, right? Mahomes did a 10-year deal that enables the Chiefs to continually restructure, get salary cap relief from throughout the life of the deal, kept the cap numbers low in the early years so they could re-sign guys like Chris Jones and Travis Kelce and keep the core of that team. So the Eagles know that. The question will be whether Hurts is willing to do a longer-term structure that gives them flexibility or whether he wants more money up front, and that could determine the answer to your question, Ryan.
That could be really interesting. Could you imagine Jalen Hurts with like a 10-year, $600 million deal?
Well, I believe that's where the league is going because you need that flexibility, right? And it allows you to continue to push the credit card bill down the road. So I think we're going to start seeing quarterbacks because quarterbacks, you know, they take so much of the cap that I think people are going to start giving them longer deals and trying to basically put two deals into one, knowing that the quarterback is able to go back to the table because these quarterbacks are not going 15 years. So you can tell them, hey, you're going to get another deal, and we'll continue to just add years onto the deal if you play at a high level. But it gives the teams flexibility. The issue is, like, you know, they have 20 free agents, but they have 2 first-round draft picks. So they have the draft capital, and Howie Roseman is one of the best at being able to identify talent and get players to come. But I still, you know, say that he's a good quarterback. I don't know if he deserves Patrick Mahomes money. I don't know if he deserves Joe Burrow type of money. Yeah, I think it's a difference in the levels because you have to ask yourself, once we take away the most talented roster in the game, what is he? Because you have to be able to be a force multiplier when you lose a Tyreek Hill because you're going to have to pay Devontae Smith in a couple of years, right? So you're going to start losing guys. You got to replace Travis Kelce, who makes everything work in a couple of years or so.
Yeah, and Harry, it's a good point. I mean, he's been doing it a year or so ago. People were wondering if he'd even be in Philly. Now he's obviously a huge star. But is it more about, hey, we got to see more from him at this point?
No, you've seen everything you need to see this past season. And we got to give him credit for, you know, being a pro and working on his game and getting to this point. Because he could have easily took the you know what, I'm just going to ease into this season. I'm a starting quarterback. No, he took the high road. He worked on his craft, worked on his game, and now he got to the point to where he can set the price on what he wants. And I don't think he has to be a Patrick Mahomes. I don't think he has to be a Joe Burrow for him to deserve his money. He proved this season the Eagles don't go to the Super Bowl without Jalen Hurts as their quarterback.
Yeah, I think it's a good point.
Absolutely.
You know what? I'll say this as an Eagles fan. When he lost and he said, you either win or you learn, that tells you so much about this guy.
He has great character, and I don't want to get misconstrued because I know people take my words and say I don't think that he's a great quarterback. I do think he's a great quarterback, but I do believe that he benefited from having the most talented roster around him, right? When you talk about those great throws he made in the Super Bowl, he wasn't under duress because that line protected him. He was an eye of the hurricane. Great
character, but also this sense of like, I'm not done. There's still more great things in my path. I'm not going to stop working. That's the kind of character you need and the culture you need on that team.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.